Right. Yes, my name is Melinda Carrera. I am the owner of Street Financial. I do credit education, mostly around not just solely credit, but just all sort of finances. So my specialty is credit because I once was in a situation where my credit was terrible. I learned how to fix my credit, and from there it just kind of took off. And really, I understood that the weight that credit really carries in someone's life and how powerless one could be when their credit is not good. So that's when I took it to social media and I just started teaching people how to fix their own credit. And I've helped thousands of people on my social media platforms.
Nice. Love it. Okay. Well, thanks so much for coming on to the show today. So, folks, we're going to be talking a little bit more about how long does it take to improve credit after paying off debt. Alrighty. So, how about we just start with that question, Melinda? How long does it take to improve your credit once once you've kind of resolved the debt?
So it varies from credit report to credit report depending on what's on your credit report. But I would say on an average, it literally, well, I can't say on an average because it could take a matter of months to some years. If you decide to do absolutely nothing, it can take, I would say, anywhere from 3 to 7 years. But if you decide to step in, contact the bureaus, or if you decide to dispute even with the creditor, then you can have that off within the matter of months. So it all kind of depends on your credit file. It depends on the work that you put in. But also it depends too, like on the creditor too, because sometimes the creditor may delete it from their credit report themselves, which is rare, but it does happen.
Sometimes the creditor deletes the debt from the report. Why would they do that?
Well, it's very rare, but I do see that it happens sometimes. So, um, I don't know why they do that, but it does happen sometimes. It's like I said, it's very, very rare.
Nice. Okay. Why does higher credit utilization decrease your credit score?
Because utilization is 30% of your credit score. So credit is measured in five buckets. History, payment history is 35% of your credit score, and then utilization is 30% of your credit score. So that can literally bring you from that 720 to down to like a 620 because of utilization. So if you're using all of your available all of your availability on your credit card, that drastically hurts your utilization. So, in order to avoid that, I would suggest asking for credit line increases prior to you even having to use that. So, if you know you need to make a big purchase and put it on your credit card, ask for a credit line increase prior to that. So that way, when you make that big purchase, your utilization is not going to be as effective. And when you ask for credit line increases, they're not going to put an inquiry on your credit report as well. So you're getting like a new extra whatever it is. If you have a $5,000 card and you ask for an extra $2,000, well, that now brings your card to 7,000. So if you need to make that $3,000 purchase, you're not going to be maxing your card out or almost maxing your card out.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So utilization's a huge factor here, folks. Huge factor. Does debt relief hurt your credit?
What do you like doing a debt relief program? Is that the question? Is that one of the questions?
Yeah. Like if you
Yeah.
do a debt
So
relief program, is that going to hurt your credit?
yes, if they tell you to stop paying your creditors, then it's going to hurt your credit because you're going to be getting all these late payments on your credit report. When you go with a debt relief company and they tell you to stop making payments on your creditors, it's going to hurt. Now, if you're stuff is already, it's done. You're not paying it at all, and it's already in a derogatory state, and it's not going to hurt anymore. But if you actually have an open account, and they tell you to stop paying it, it will hurt you because remember, payment history is 35% of your credit score, which is the biggest bucket on a credit score. So on your credit being measured. So if they tell you to stop paying it, you're hurting your biggest bucket. So yeah, it's gonna drastically hurt you. It can hurt you. I've seen upward of like 120 points people get hit for missing payments.
120 points is a lot.
Yeah,
Just
so
after like missing like one payment even.
yeah, 30-day late. I mean, honestly, if you're late, it's not going to affect you, but when you're 30 days late, that's when it hurts your credit.
Great. So in that situation, I mean, sometimes people sign up for these debt relief programs knowing that they're going to take a hit on their credit. Is it worth it in that situation? Do you see them turn around over time? Like once they actually graduate from these programs, does it turn around? What do you think?
I personally do not like them because a lot of times, especially if they're collections. A lot of times people go into these debt relief programs, and then when they're done and they're graduated, their credit is worse off, or they paid all this money for maybe like a 10-point increase, and it took, 36 months. A lot of these programs are like 24 months, 36 months, 48 months. You're locked in with these programs for quite a while. So you're basically not only settling for bad credit for that time frame, the duration that you're in the program, but it also like doesn't really help you, and then you have to pay these escrow fees, and then you literally can negotiate these debts yourself. Like if you want to, like, let's say you have a Capital One credit card, and the debt is just killing you, you can actually call Capital One yourself and negotiate it. That's all they're doing is just negotiating the debt. You can say, hey, Capital One, I no longer could afford to pay this. Can I just pay $20 a month until such date? And they may put you in a deferment. Like they have programs, and that's all they're doing is just talking on your behalf. You can do all this stuff yourself. So I personally don't recommend debt settlement companies. But I understand some people don't want to get on the phone, some people don't want to deal with it, and some people are okay with getting a hit on their credit. So it all depends on what you're okay with. But just keep in mind that you're gonna be locked in with these programs for plus.
Right. Okay, we got a question from the audience here. How do I rebuild my credit after bankruptcy? I'm 1 year post bankruptcy.
So if you're 1 year post bankruptcy, you can start disputing those items on your credit report. I honestly see more success when the bankruptcy is at least like a year and a half, 2 years, but you can start disputing those items on your credit report. And then also you can start getting secured cards. So you can go to your bank, you can get a secured card. That's going to be your best bet. There's the Cred AI credit card, which is a credit card that reports to your, it's actually a bank account. I'm sorry, it's a bank account that reports to the credit bureaus. So it like tricks the credit bureaus to looking like you have a $1,500 line. There's no other card like it. There's no inquiry. So think of it as a bank account that reports to the credit bureaus. So that's very beneficial to a lot of people. I actually made a video on that went viral, and there's thousands of comments who people got over 50-point increases quickly.
Nice. Well, that's cool. So Credit AI is a bank account that looks like a credit card on the credit report.
Correct. Or you can always get a secured card. They have rent now. You can report your rent to your credit. There's so many credit building apps now that you can get. Like traditional banking, you don't even have to go that route anymore. Like there's there's Kickoff, you can go to your app store and put in the word credit, and you can find credit building apps now. So there's not um, only one way to build credit now.
Nice. Well, yeah, fascinating times that we live in. I think the idea of credit has really been evolving over time for
Correct.
sure.
So
And
much.
also the concept of the credit score and how they're making those credit scores. Okay, great. Let's see. Is there a way to consolidate debt without hurting your credit score?
Well, if you apply for like a personal loan, that can consolidate debt. So if you do apply for it, then 9 times out of 10, there's going to put an inquiry on your credit report, which probably bring it down maybe like 5 points, but in the long run, you're saving money. So I wouldn't say you're not necessarily hurting your score because you're actually bettering your financial situation. And then it will all even out in the long run, probably like 5, 6 months.
Nice. Okay. What about these? Uh, right. So, what about like a balance transfer card or something like that? Right. Like some people get these credit
Balance
cards.
transfer.
Yeah, like a credit card that's specifically for like balance transfer. So the idea there is that you pay off one of your credit cards with a new credit card, right?
Yeah, balance transfer is good, especially anything that's like 24 months. Some they actually have some. I know the City Diamond is 21 months. Navy Federal has one that's 24 months where it's 0% interest for almost 2 years or up to 2 years on some of these credit cards. So that definitely can help out a lot. You do have to probably have somewhat of a better credit score to get that. Typically, because you have to get a larger amount. Um, or also personal loans too. Personal loans are a little bit easier to get because there's an end date to them. So revolving, getting like a balance transfer, it keeps going. So that's something you're going to keep having. With a personal loan, there's an end date to it, so it's not as hard to get. The approval rate is usually easier to get that if you're wanting to do it for debt consolidation. But both options are really good. So personal loan, something low rate, obviously, good terms, and then same thing with balance transfer. So you want to make sure it's with a bank that is going to give you that time frame. You don't want to do something that's 6 months. 0% interest because then you're kind of tied up to pay that off in 6 months. So the longer the better.
Nice. Fantastic. Uh, so let's say somebody is doing like a consolidation loan, so like a refinancing, right? And they have
Uh-huh.
like a couple. Let's say they have like two lines of debt, and they want to pay off both of those lines of debt with a single new loan.
Hmm.
Is that going to like hurt or help their credit score?
Well, in the beginning, it's probably going to hurt because of the new inquiries. Now, once they put it all onto, because the debt is still going to be there until they pay it down, it's going to be there. So let's say you have one credit card for $5,000 that's completely maxed out, but you have another $5,000 card with a zero balance. Well, your total debt is still at 50% utilization. So they take your total debt on your credit report, and that's how they do your utilization. So if you have multiple cards at zero balance, that can help your other card that's at 100% utilization. So until you start paying that loan down, let's say you put all that debt onto that loan, until you start paying that loan down, that's when your utilization will go down, which will bring your credit up. So it should help because, yeah, so to answer your question, yes, it should help because now you'll be able to pay that debt off sooner. So your utilization should go down sooner, which will bring your credit score up.
In a
I don't know if that makes
situation,
sense.
yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, in a situation of refinancing or a balance transfer, is that going to count as a closed account? Like if you pay off that other line of debt, is that going to be a closed account? Do you think, and will that hurt your credit?
Well, if you're refinancing, yeah, well, it depends. Like if you're refinancing a car to a different lender, typically, yes, it's going to close that account. And it may hurt you because you're losing history, but you'll also like save more money. So it's kind of like you have to weigh out your options, but it's not necessarily going to be a gigantic hit. Some hits are worth it. If you're saving hundreds of dollars a month, then having a 10, 15 point decrease is worth it to save hundreds of dollars a month, and you can get those points back in like 6 months.
Nice.
But if you're looking to buy a house or something like that, well, they're going to want your debt down anyway. So, um, yeah, you, you definitely want to pay that debt down prior to applying anywhere, if possible.
Okay. Uh,
And you can
does
also do a HELOC too. If there's anyone who owns a home and they're looking to get rid of debt, they can also do a HELOC. It would be a second, but that's also an option as well. They're typically very low rates.
what is a HELOC?
A home equity line of credit.
Nice. And you mean use that to like pay off other debts?
Yeah, you can use it for whatever you want. So it's just basically like a gigantic credit card with no credit card. It's a big,
Right.
gigantic line of credit.
Right.
They usually do 80% loan to value. Most banks. Now, every bank is different, but most big banks like Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, 80% loan to value typically.
80% loan to value. What does that mean?
So let's say your house is worth a hundred. I'm throwing out low numbers. Let's say your house is worth 100,000, and you only owe, let's say you owe 50,000. So they'll do between that. So that 50,000, they'll do 80% of that 50,000 is what your line could be.
Oh, that's pretty large.
Yeah. So it's basically like a large credit card with no
So
card
80% of the equity that you have in
of
the
the
house.
equity.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's big. You could get a lot of money that way. That's for sure.
But it is going to be a second.
Right. Right. Got a question here. Does monitoring your credit lower your score?
No, not at all. Monitoring your credit, I always suggest you, if you haven't been monitoring your credit, definitely check your credit at least once a quarter. You can go to annualcreditreport.com. You can get a free credit report. If you want something a little bit more detailed, you can go to Identity IQ. That's what I use. I have it in my link tree. Um, Another credit, you can also get Credit Karma, but you're not going to see everything. You're only going to see your TransUnion and your Equifax, and that's going to be your Vantage score. So your Vantage score is not what's most commonly used, but it will show you. It's a great free resource, but no, it doesn't lower it at all. You may get a soft pull, but soft pulls do not matter at all. You can have 1,000 soft pulls; it has no effect to you.
What is identity? You said IQ identity.
Identity IQ,
Yeah.
so it's a credit monitoring
What scores
service.
do they give you?
They give you your Vantage score and they give you Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. So it's more so the layout. I like Identity IQ's layout because it gives you everything that's being reported side by side. Um, in your name. So that's why I like it. As far as like the scoring module, there's different scoring modules, but I do like the layout of Identity IQ. It's very easy to understand. If you're not one who could just like kind of spot and read credit reports, I would suggest Identity IQ just because it's super easy to read and understand for
Yeah.
someone who is not in the credit field.
Right. And also, folks, you'll be able to monitor your credit on Solo here shortly. Coming next week sometime or thereabouts, you'll be able to just when you log into your Solo account, you'll be able to see your credit score and take a look at your report.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
Most
cool. And so
recently, yeah, most immediately we'll be doing just your credit report, but then the actual score is coming in the pipeline
yeah, that's cool. That's going to be a good service.
for sure. What do you see in your experience as the difference between Vantage and FICO? Do you see much of a difference in scores?
It could be
Actually,
drastically different. Sometimes they're drastically different because, well, okay, so with Vantage, utilization is, I want to say, utilization is like 39. It's like a weird, their percentage is different, 39%. And then on FICO is 30%. So Vantage is weighed a little bit heavier on utilization than it is on FICO. So if you have maxed out cards, your Vantage is going to be lower. History is weighed higher on FICO, but again, FICO is what's most commonly used. So all in all, I just tell everybody work on your overall credit file. So if you know that your credit cards are going to be maxed out, if you can, be ahead of it and ask for credit line increases or get another card or even get the Credit AI card because it reports a $1,500 trade line at a zero balance. So that can help you out with $1,500 available credit on your credit report as well. And that shows at a zero, zero debt for 1,500. So when banks see that you don't have that debt, that helps you out. So the more you can prove you don't need something, the more banks are going to give you something like a credit line or an account. It makes no sense, but that's kind of how it works with credit.
Yeah, I think that's how it works with money in general. Oftentimes, right? If you don't need money,
Yeah,
people might give you money.
you have to prove you don't need it in order to get it, which I don't know why it's that way, but that's just how credit is.
Yeah, right. It's kind of weird in that regard. We got another question here. What can you say if you want to clear your credit as part of a debt settlement?
If you want to clear your credit as part of a debt settlement, I think that would be more like would that be a you question?
Yeah, happy to answer that question. Yep. So this is kind of like a pay to delete tactic. Is kind of the fancy and confusing term that people use for is pay to delete. Uh, we've seen that in reality it doesn't really happen very often, where the collector is going to uh, like delete the debt from your credit report. Usually, what is going to happen is, and really more of like the above board thing for the collector to do, is once you have satisfied the debts, once you've paid the debt through a settlement and the debt's therefore satisfied, they'll just mark the trade line as settled on your credit report. So the debt will be there, but it'll just show that it's been settled. Uh, they aren't going to delete it usually. In theory, they could delete it, but this is not something that we see them agree to very often because it's not exactly the correct policy for them to do. And also, they need to report the debt settlement to the IRS so that it can factor into your taxes appropriately, right? So, debt settlement is really so much perceived as income that the IRS actually considers it income. So, if you settle debt, then the
Mhm.
forgiven amount will be added to your income for that year. Uh, Depending on where you sit in your taxes, you might not actually increase the amount that you owe very much, but it will factor into that. So that is what we see there. What are your chances of getting a case dismissed against the original creditor? So that's another question for me. Happy to answer that. So, when you are sued for a debt, we kind of see people in like two different groups, really. We see people who want to get the case. Well, we see people who want to get the case dismissed and people who want to settle the debt. And there's also two other categories of people. There's people who actually owe the debt to some degree, or at least a portion of the debt. That's most people. Then there's a few people who are really being wrongfully sued, like there's a case of identity theft. Unfortunately, the collector accidentally sued the wrong person. So if you fall into the group where you actually owe the debt, you actually recognize it, definitely recommend you just respond to the lawsuit and then you make an offer to settle the debt and get it fully resolved. Mainly because that'll lead to the best resolution for you. Where if you respond to the debt and you just try to get the case dismissed, the collector might and very likely will sue you again for the debt. They'll just refile because usually these aren't dismissed with prejudice. And then if it's dismissed on the technicality, and then they also can try to collect on the debt outside of court, which is not fun for you either. So if you go down the path of settlement, then you can actually get the debt fully satisfied, and then people are going to leave you alone. They aren't going to see you again. They aren't going to try to collect on it
Mhm.
outside of court. So that's the best path that we see. So we recommend you use solo suit to respond to the debt, and then solo settle to connect with the collector to get the debt fully settled and resolved. Nice. How do we begin the conversation of removal? Linda, this one's for you. So how does a consumer begin the conversation with the credit bureau to get an inaccuracy removed from their report?
So to start it, the first step is if you want, you can send a letter. First, you need to pull a credit report. That's the first thing you need to do. And then once you pull a credit report, you can send a letter and have them verify and validate the the accounts that you want to dispute. So you're going to, if you want, you can go to Chat GPT. You can have Chat GPT make it, it can make you a letter. Put in the account that you want to dispute and tell it you need to have a letter sent to the bureaus because you want to verify and validate, and then put all your accounts down. It will generate the letter for you, or you can type the letter yourself, whatever you want to do. That's going to start your dispute process. Another way you can do is you can go online with all three of the credit bureaus. So you have to do them separately. You can go to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. They all have their own website, and you can dispute there as well. So basically, you're going to dispute all your old personal information, old addresses, phone numbers, employers, because some of these addresses may be on your credit report from 10, 15 years ago. They only are supposed to record up to 7 years on your credit report. And a lot of times there's mistakes. 80% of credit reports contain mistakes that are really not true. So it is good to look at your credit report and still clean it up. So you can do it online, you can do it by letter. Another way to start the conversation is just to call the credit bureaus and tell them, hey, I'm looking at my credit report. I want to know why this is on here. Or you can just say, hey, I want to dispute this and I want you guys to verify this. So anytime you say, I want you guys to verify this, that puts it in dispute.
Okay. So you're saying you can send a letter to the bureau, or you can open a dispute on
Online
their
or on the
website.
phone. So you could do it letter, online, or phone.
What do you recommend? Do you recommend going to their website or doing like a letter?
Um, I always recommend letter or call, but some people I completely understand they don't like to get on the phone because it can be sometimes long wait times. For TransUnion and Equifax, Experian is really easy to get through. But at the very least, do it online.
Why do the letter instead of online?
Because a lot of times with the letters, they actually end up in somebody's hand. I don't know, when you do things online, it's all computer generated. So I like letter because the results are always a lot better. And then you can actually um, call somebody and tell them, hey, did you guys get my letter? And they can actually pull your letter up. So they like store it to a file for you with the bureau. So they'll tell you, hey, we did receive your dispute.
So they handle the letters better. Okay, great.
I recommend letters so much
Nice.
more.
Yeah, and also, folks, you can also do the dispute letter on Solo now as well. Pleased to say this is the
Cool.
recent advancement in the last week.
I gotta get my link updated.
Yeah, we got lots of new things for you to link to. Yeah, so you can do, we call it a FCRA dispute letter, so Fair Credit Reporting Act dispute letter. A note on that, right? If you're trying to settle, right? So if you like recognize the debt, you owe a debt on your trade line. We don't recommend disputing it. We recommend just trying to settle. If you open up a dispute, that's going to prevent the collector from settling with you. They won't be able to communicate with you about the debt until they verified it on their own side. So if it's a debt that you actually owe, we recommend just like kind of opening up a settlement line of communication rather than disputing. I think people probably have different methodologies, but that's what we're doing. All right, folks.
Yeah, definitely to update my link.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll sync up. Melinda, Melinda, thanks so much for coming on the show. Always a pleasure to have you on.
You're welcome.
Alrighty, folks, we are half past the hour. Just real quick, Melinda, in wrapping up, where can people find out more about you?
So everything on my website is streetfinancial.net, streetfinancial.net, and all of my usernames on social media is Mel Money Gal, exactly how it sounds. On TikTok, I have a lot of fake accounts, so make sure it is Mel Money Gal.
Nice. You have copycat accounts? Is that what we're saying?
So many. It's like they pop up all the time. It's crazy.
People just want to be like you.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, Melinda. Well, thanks a lot. Take care.
All right. Thank you. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.